The documentaries, fictional stories, and poems on this channel contain mature themes including psychological horror, violence, death, self-harm, mental health crises, and other disturbing subject matter. If you're sensitive to dark content, this may not be for you. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome, Dark Explorers. I am the Howlerist. Tonight's tale comes from the depths of my imagination, inspired by mysteries carved into stone millennia ago. Ancient civilizations vanished without a trace, leaving only symbols behind. What were they trying to tell us? What did they witness that we cannot see? If you dare to join the pack, subscribe now, and be sure to leave your mark below. Now, let us uncover the answer. But be warned, some truths are better left buried in the desert sand. The Aligned. Chapter 1. The Watchers. Jade worked the closing shift at a department store in Leeds 3 nights a week. He was 17, quiet, and his mom was glad he had the job because it meant he was busy, contributing, staying out of trouble. She worked nights at the hospital as a nurse, and they passed each other like ghosts in their small house. Tired conversations over microwaved dinners and not much else. The store wasn't bad as far as retail jobs went. Boring mostly, restocking shelves, manning the tills, and dealing with customers who barely acknowledged his existence. But the late shifts, the ones that ran until 10 or 11 when the building was nearly empty, those shifts were different. That was when Jade started noticing things that made his skin crawl, his hands shake, and his breath come too fast. It started small, movement in his peripheral vision that vanished when he turned his head, the sense of being watched from empty aisles, the way certain sections of the store felt wrong in a way he couldn't articulate, like the air was thicker there, or the angles of the shelves didn't quite line up properly. He told himself it was tiredness, stress, the fluorescent lights playing tricks on his eyes. He told himself a lot of things that first month. Then he saw one clearly. It was standing at the end of aisle 12, near the home goods section, tall enough that its head nearly touched the ceiling. The shape of it was wrong, all harsh angles and geometric edges where a human body should have curves. It had something like a large circular halo around its head. 3 points of light marked where a face should be, 2 eyes and 1 mouth. It stood perfectly still, watching him, and Jade's heart kicked so hard in his chest he thought he might vomit. He'd stood frozen for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds, before another worker walked past, pushing a trolley, completely oblivious to the thing standing 10 feet away. That's when Jade understood with cold certainty that he was the only one who could see it. The only one who knew it was there. After that, they were everywhere. In the store, on the street, in his house, standing in corners, doorways, the edges of rooms, always watching, always still. Their presence made Jade's head ache, made his vision blur with faint geometric patterns that overlaid everything, like someone had sketched a blueprint across reality itself. He started sleeping badly, jumping at shadows, and wondering if he was losing his mind. His mom noticed he looked tired. She asked if work was too much, if he was feeling all right. Jade lied smoothly because he knew what she was really asking. She was watching for signs of his father, for symptoms of the sickness that had driven him away when Jade was only 6 years old. She tried to get him help, but he'd refused medication, refused to accept he was ill, and eventually, he'd just left, disappeared. Jade didn't know where he was now, and his mom made it very clear they weren't to discuss him. So Jade kept quiet about what he was seeing. He learned to hide it, to control his reactions, to not stare. He became an expert at acting normal even when every instinct screamed at him to run. If this was what had happened to his father, then Jade would fight it, would prove he was different, would not let it destroy him the way it had destroyed his dad. But it was getting worse. The figures were appearing more frequently, standing closer, and sometimes Jade swore they were moving when he wasn't looking directly at them. He'd turned away for just a moment, and when he looked back, a figure would be 3 feet closer, still motionless, still watching. The geometric patterns were intensifying too, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat, making it hard to focus on anything else. He started making mistakes at work, zoning out mid-conversation, flinching at nothing. It was during one of these moments that Bella noticed. Chapter 2. Bella. She was 18, had started working at the store around the same time Jade had, and they usually closed together. She had short dark hair and a nose ring. Bella had a way of watching people that made Jade nervous. For weeks, they'd barely spoken beyond work necessities, but he'd caught her staring at him sometimes, her expression thoughtful in a way he didn't like. It was a Tuesday night when she finally said something. They were restocking the seasonal section when Jade made the mistake of letting his guard down. One of the figures was standing directly behind Bella, close enough to touch her. The shock of it made him freeze completely, his whole body going rigid and his eyes locked on the space over her shoulder. "What do you see?" Bella asked quietly. Jade's heart was pounding. "Nothing. I'm just tired." "You're lying." She was still watching him with that unnerving intensity. "You do this all the time. Stare at things that aren't there. You avoid certain aisles. You never want to go into the stock room alone." She paused. "My Nan did the same thing, just before she died." The floor felt unsteady beneath Jade's feet. He wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, but something in Bella's expression stopped him. She looked curious rather than concerned, interested rather than afraid. "I don't know what you mean," he managed. "Okay," Bella said, but she didn't believe him. Over the next few shifts, she kept pushing, kept asking questions, kept watching him with that same intense curiosity. She told him about her grandmother who'd died 4 years ago, how in those final weeks she had insisted there were people in her room that nobody else could see. Tall figures with wrong proportions, geometric shapes around their heads, always watching. The family had dismissed it as medication or her brain failing. But Bella had never been sure. She tried to describe them, Bella said one night as they were cleaning up the break room. She kept saying they were tall and angular with something like a crown. 3 points of light where the face should be. She was watching Jade carefully. "Does that sound familiar?" Jade's hands had gone cold. That was exactly what he saw. Exactly. "I don't know what you want me to say," he managed. "I want you to tell me the truth," Bella said. I want to understand what my Nan was seeing, and I'm just wondering if you're seeing the same thing." It took another week before Jade finally broke. He was too exhausted to keep lying, too worn down by sleepless nights and constant vigilance. One evening when they were alone in the store, he told her everything. The figures, the patterns, the sense of being watched constantly. He waited for her to call him crazy, to report him, to do something that would confirm he was as sick as his father had been. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Can you draw them?" So Jade started sketching. Simple drawings on receipt paper. Circular heads with the strange halo shape. 3 circles for a face. Rectangular bodies with outstretched arms. They looked crude and childlike, but they were accurate to what he perceived. "I need to show you something," Bella said after seeing his drawings. "Not here. My next shift is Thursday. I'll bring it then." Thursday came and Bella arrived with a small notebook, worn and stained. "This was my Nan's," she said quietly, opening it to show Jade pages filled with shaky sketches. The drawings were incomplete, rendered by hands that could barely hold a pen, but the shapes were unmistakable. The same geometric figures, the same circular heads with halos, the same 3 points of light for faces. Jade felt the blood drain from his face. When did she draw these? 4 years ago, the last few weeks before she died. Bella's voice was tight. She tried to tell us what she was seeing, but nobody believed her. Like it was just something that you see when your body is shutting down. "What if it isn't?" Jade whispered. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Bella looked at him directly. "I don't see what you see, but I believe you see it. And I believe my Nan saw it too. And I want to help you understand what it is." Chapter 3. The Search. They started researching together. Bella brought printouts to work, articles about shadow people, hallucinations, and dimensional beings. She approached it like a puzzle to be solved, methodical and patient, while Jade just tried to hold himself together. He wasn't sleeping more than a few hours a night now. The figures were in his bedroom, standing in the corner, watching him. Sometimes he'd wake up and there would be 3 or 4 of them surrounding his bed. He'd have to bite down on his fist to keep from screaming. His mum was starting to ask more pointed questions, her concern sharpening into something that looked like fear. She watched him at breakfast, noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the way his hands shook sometimes. Jade knew he was running out of time. Soon she would realize there was something wrong and try to fix him. "Have you always seen them?" Bella asked one night as they restocked shelves. "No, it's gotten worse since I started working here. But maybe there were signs before. I don't know anymore." Jade paused, his throat tight. "My dad saw things. That's why my mom left him. She thought he was mentally ill." "Do you think you're mentally ill?" "I don't know." The admission felt like defeat. "Maybe. Probably. I know my mom worries I'm going the same way Dad did." Bella was quiet for a moment. "Two people seeing the same thing," she said finally. "You and my Nan. That's not nothing." "It's not enough either," Jade said bitterly. "It just means we're both crazy." But Bella kept searching, kept digging through articles, forums, academic papers. Most of it was useless, conspiracy theories and pseudoscience, but she approached everything with the same careful attention. Jade found himself grateful for her presence, even though he felt guilty for dragging her into this. She couldn't see what he saw, but she was trying to understand, and that mattered more than he knew how to express. Then one night in early December, Bella showed him something that made his blood run cold. "Look at this," she said, pulling up an article on her phone. Her hands were shaking slightly. Scientists just discovered hundreds of new Nazca Lines in Peru. They used AI to analyze aerial photographs. They found 248 new geoglyphs that nobody knew existed. The patterns were carved into the desert 2,000 years ago. Jade looked at the images and felt his chest constrict. The geoglyphs showed geometric figures etched into the earth by an ancient civilization that had mysteriously disappeared. Figures with circular heads and large rounded shapes around them like halos or headdresses. 3 circular points for faces. Rectangular bodies with outstretched arms. They were identical to what Jade had been drawing, identical to what Bella's grandmother had sketched 4 years ago. "These were just discovered this year," Bella said. "A few weeks ago. The AI found them. They've been hidden in the desert for 2 millennia. She looked at Jade. "How could you be drawing the same thing? How could my Nan have drawn the same thing 4 years ago?" Jade couldn't speak, couldn't process what he was seeing. The Nazca people had carved these figures into the earth 20 centuries ago and then vanished without explanation. Their civilization declining for reasons nobody understood. And now Jade was seeing the same figures, drawing the same shapes, experiencing the same things that might have driven an entire culture to collapse. "I need to go home," he said abruptly. Chapter 4. The Note. He drove back in a daze, Bella's grandmother's notebook on the passenger seat beside him, his mind racing with implications he didn't want to examine. When he got home, the house was empty and dark, his mom still at the hospital. Jade went straight to his room and sat on the bed, staring at the photo on his nightstand. It was the only picture he had of his father, the 3 of them at a park when Jade was small. His dad looked young and happy, his arm around Jade's mom, Jade grinning between them. It had been taken maybe a year before his dad left, before whatever was wrong with him became too much to hide. Jade had looked at this photo 1,000 times, but tonight something made him pick it up, hold it close. As he did, the frame somehow slipped from his fingers. The glass shattered against the floor. Jade swore and dropped to his knees to clean it up, carefully gathering the sharp pieces. When he lifted the photo from the broken frame, something fell out from behind it. A piece of paper, folded small and yellowed with age. His hands were shaking as he opened it. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but somehow he knew it was his father's. It was slightly uneven, like it had been written in a hurry or under stress. "Jade, I'm sorry I couldn't stay, son, but I can't deny what I am any longer. If you're reading this, I'm assuming you see them too, the Watchers. You're not crazy. I saw them my whole life. They're real. Your mom couldn't see them. She thought I was sick. I wasn't. You aren't either. I'm sorry you have to carry this alone. You're aligned. That's what we are. The ones who can see. I love you, Dad." On the back was a sketch, a simple drawing of a tall figure with a circular head and a large, rounded shape around it like a halo. There it was again, the same figure, this time drawn by his own father's hand. Almost identical to what Jade had been drawing for months. The same as in Bella's grandmother's notebook. the same as those carved into the Peruvian desert 2,000 years ago by people who'd vanished from history. Jade sat on his bedroom floor surrounded by broken glass and felt something inside him crack. His father had known, had understood what was happening to him, had left this message hoping Jade would find it someday, hoping it would help. But it didn't help. It just confirmed that this thing was hereditary, genetic, that Jade was destined to end up like his father had, alone, broken, and gone. He looked up, and there was one of the figures standing in the corner of his room, watching him with that patient, inhuman attention it always had. Always there, watching, never speaking, never explaining. "What do you want?" Jade whispered, but the figure didn't answer. It never did. He showed Bella the note the next time they worked together. They sat in the break room with the door closed as she read it in silence, her expression shifting through shock and something like awe. "Aligned," she said quietly. "That's what he called it. You're aligned to see them somehow. My dad was aligned too, and it destroyed him," Jade said, his voice harsh. "My mom thought he was crazy. Maybe he was. Maybe I am too. Your dad, my nan, the Nazca people, all seeing the same thing across thousands of years and thousands of miles. That's not crazy, Jade. That's real," Bella said firmly. "Then what are they?" The question came out like an accusation. What do they want? Why are they everywhere? Why won't they just leave me alone? "I don't know," Bella admitted, "but we'll figure it out." Over the next 2 weeks, Jade continued to deteriorate. He was barely sleeping, barely eating, jumping at shadows and struggling to focus on anything. The figures were multiplying, surrounding him constantly, their presence pressing down on him like a physical weight. The geometric patterns were so intense now that sometimes he couldn't see properly through them, couldn't distinguish between what was real and what was overlay. "I think something's going to happen," he told Bella one Friday night. It was 2 weeks before Christmas, and the store was busy with holiday shoppers. They're getting more active, more numerous, like they're building up to something. "What do you mean?" Bella asked, her face tight with concern. "I don't know, but I can feel it. Something's coming." Chapter 5. The Vision. They finished their closing shift in tense silence and walked out to the car park together. The air was cold enough to make their breath mist, the sky dark and clear overhead. The car park was nearly empty, just a few vehicles scattered under the harsh security lights. Jade had been feeling uneasy all evening, his skin crawling. "You okay?" Bella asked as they reached her car. Jade opened his mouth to answer, and then stopped. The car park was filled with figures, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, arranged in precise geometric formations across the space. They formed patterns, triangles and spirals and intersecting lines, shapes that seemed to pulse with meaning he couldn't quite grasp. "They're everywhere," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Bella, they're everywhere." "Where? Show me." Jade pointed, but his hand was shaking. "All around us, hundreds of them. Something's happening." One of the figures was moving toward him, not walking, but gliding, its movement smooth and wrong, closing the distance with mechanical precision. Jade wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't respond, his body locked in place by some instinct he didn't understand. The figure kept coming, kept approaching. Finally, it was standing directly in front of him, close enough to touch, Then the world shattered. Images slammed into Jade's mind with brutal, overwhelming force. He saw ancient peoples standing on cliff tops and in desert valleys, their skin dark and their eyes wide, looking up at something in the sky he couldn't quite perceive. He saw them gathering in circles, linking hands, chanting words he didn't understand. He saw them carving figures into the earth with desperate intensity, trying to document something nobody else would believe, trying to leave a record of what they were witnessing. He saw entire civilizations rise and fall across millennia, saw pyramids built with impossible precision, saw stone circles arranged to catch specific angles of light, saw monuments raised by people who understood geometry in ways that shouldn't have been possible with their technology. He saw his father as a young man, standing alone in an empty field with tears streaming down his face, his body rigid with the weight of perception nobody else could share. He saw Bella's grandmother in her hospital bed, reaching toward something invisible, her face filled with wonder and terror. He saw the geometric patterns everywhere, not overlaid on reality, but woven into its fundamental structure. Threads of meaning and connection that existed in dimensions human minds weren't built to process. He saw the figures moving through those patterns like they were pathways or doorways, existing in angles and spaces that didn't translate properly into three-dimensional perception. They were tall, angular, and wrong in ways that made his brain hurt trying to comprehend them. And they were everywhere, had always been everywhere, filling every moment and every space with their patient, eternal observation. And through it all, he felt their attention focused on him, like the weight of mountains, like the pressure of deep water, something vast and inhuman regarding him with what might have been curiosity, recognition, or something he had no words for. The message came not in language, but in understanding that bypassed words entirely. Concepts settling directly into his mind with a certainty that felt like drowning. We observe. We were like you once. We shifted. We evolved. We transcended the flesh and became something else. We didn't abandon this place. We didn't leave. We only changed the way we exist in it. Your kind forgot us, rewrote our disappearance as mystery. But we didn't forget you. We've been watching since the beginning. We've been here through every moment of your history. We are still here. You are aligned. Your father was aligned. The old ones who carved our images into stone were aligned. A rare configuration of mind that can perceive what others cannot. We left marks so you would know, so those chosen across the ages would understand they are not alone, not broken, not mad. This earth is sacred to us. We will never truly leave it. We only exist in it differently now. You see us. We see you. We remember. We have always remembered. The images stopped as suddenly as they'd started. Jade found himself on his knees on the frozen tarmac, gasping for air like he'd been underwater. His vision was swimming, his head pounding, his whole body shaking with the aftershock of what had just happened. Bella was crouched beside him, her hands on his shoulders, her voice saying his name over and over with increasing panic. "I'm okay," he managed, though his voice was raw. "I'm okay." "What happened?" "Jade, you just collapsed. You were saying things I couldn't understand. Your eyes..." She stopped, visibly trying to control herself. "What did they do to you?" "They spoke to me. Jade's hands were shaking so badly he could barely control them. Not in words, but I understood. They showed me things, Bella. They were human once. The ancient ones that vanished. The humans who built all those monuments, created those lines. They didn't die out. They changed. They shifted into something else. Something that exists differently than we do. And they're still here. They never left. They've been watching us this whole time. Bella was staring at him, her face pale. Why? Why would they watch? Because this place is sacred to them. Because they haven't forgotten what they were. Because some of us can still see them, and they want us to know we're not crazy. Jade's chest was tight. Being aligned is a way of perceiving reality that most people don't have. My dad, your Nan when she was dying, the Nazca people as well, and they tried to leave a record, tried to document what they saw so others would know. He looked up at Bella. And me. That's why I see them. That's why they watch me specifically. Because I'm one of the few who can perceive them. Bella stopped, shook her head. That's incredible. That's actually incredible. Is it? Jade's voice cracked. My dad was aligned, and it drove him away from everyone he loved. Your Nan saw them. Nobody believed her, and she died alone with it. The Nazca people saw them, and their whole civilization collapsed. This isn't a gift, Bella. It's a curse. But you have answers now, Bella said urgently. You know what you're seeing. You know you're not sick. Do I? Jade pushed himself to his feet, his legs unsteady. Or did I just have a complete psychotic break in a car park? How do I know any of that was real? How do I know I'm not just crazy, like I'm sure my mom thinks I am? Bella didn't have an answer for that. They stood there in the cold car park, surrounded by figures only Jade could see, and the weight of what had happened pressed down on him until he could barely breathe. Chapter 6. The Choice. He drove home in silence, his hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly, his mind still reeling. When he got home, his mom's car was in the drive. He found her in the kitchen, still in her scrubs, her face lined with exhaustion and worry. Good shift? He asked, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. Long one. She studied him for a moment. Then something in her expression shifted. Jade, love, we need to talk. About what? About you. About getting you some help. She took a breath. I've been trying to give you space, trying to let you work through whatever this is on your own. But I can't anymore. You're not sleeping. You're barely eating. You're jumpy and distant. And you're looking at things that aren't there. I've made an appointment with Dr. Morrison for Tuesday. I'm not going, Jade said. Yes, you are. His mom's voice was firm, but her eyes were pleading. I know you're scared. I know you don't want to admit something's wrong. But I've seen this before, Jade. With your father. I watched him deteriorate exactly like this. I couldn't help him because he refused to accept he was ill. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm not Dad, Jade said, but the words felt hollow. No? His mom's voice broke slightly. Then what's happening to you? What are you seeing that I can't see? What's making you look over your shoulder constantly and flinch at empty spaces? Jade looked at the figure standing in the corner by the fridge, its presence as solid and real to him as his mother was. How could he explain? How could he make her understand that what he was seeing wasn't illness but perception, that he wasn't broken but aligned, that the things watching him were real, even if she couldn't see them. "I can't explain it in a way you'd believe," he said quietly. "Then let Dr. Morrison help you explain it. Let someone with training help you understand what's happening." She reached out and took his hand. "I can't lose you too, Jade. I can't watch you disappear the way your father did. Please, just talk to someone, get evaluated. If there's nothing wrong, then at least we'll know." Jade pulled his hand away. "And if there is something wrong? If they say I need medication? If they say I'm sick like Dad was? Then we deal with it," his mom said. "Together, as a family. But we have to know what we're dealing with first." Jade wanted to argue, wanted to refuse, but looking at his mother's face, he saw genuine terror there. She was watching him fracture in real time, seeing the same signs she'd seen in his father, and she was terrified of losing him the way she'd lost his dad. Maybe she was right. Maybe he did need help. Maybe everything that had happened in the car park was just his mind finally breaking under the strain. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll go to the appointment." Relief flooded his mom's face. Thank you, love." She hugged him, and Jade let her, his eyes on the figure in the corner. It hadn't moved. It never moved. It just watched with that patient, eternal attention. And Jade wondered if it understood what was happening, if it cared, if it had watched his father make the same choices he was making now. That night, Jade lay in bed with his father's note clutched in his hand, and one of the figures standing in its usual corner. He thought about the Nazca people carving their warnings into the desert, about his father leaving that message in the photo frame, about Bella's grandmother trying to draw what she saw with hands that could barely hold a pen. All the aligned people throughout history, trying to document what they perceived, trying to leave proof that they weren't mad, trying to make someone believe. And all of them failed. All of them dismissed, forgotten, written off as sick, primitive, or dying. The knowledge they carried died with them, or was buried under skepticism and medical explanations, and nothing changed. The figures kept watching. The aligned kept seeing. The cycle continued unchanged across millennia. "I see you," Jade whispered to the figure in the corner. "I know you're there. I know you're real." The figure didn't respond. It never did. It just stood there watching, as it had watched his father, as it had watched Bella's grandmother, as it had watched the Nazca people. It would watch Jade the same way, patient and eternal, until he too was gone, medicated into blindness or lost like his father had been lost. Jade closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. As the geometric patterns pulsed behind his eyelids, he could still feel the figure's attention like weight on his skin. He was aligned. He understood now what that meant. It meant he could see what others couldn't. It meant he was connected to something ancient and inhuman that regarded him with eternal patience. It meant he would spend the rest of his life walking a line between what was real and what everyone else believed was real, never quite belonging to either. It meant he had a choice to make. Accept medication that might dull the visions but would prove his mother right, prove he was sick like his father, prove the figures weren't real, or refuse treatment. risk the same isolation and disappearance that had destroyed his dad. Either way, he would never be free of them. They would always be there, always watching, always remembering. The ancient ones, maintaining their vigil over us mere mortals, and a world they no longer walked upon. And that thought, more than anything else, was what kept him awake through the long hours until dawn. Not fear, not uncertainty, just the cold knowledge that whatever choice he made, whatever path he took, the Watchers had always been there, would always be there, observing, remembering, waiting, patient, eternal, and utterly inhuman.